So, this one's going to be again about the Icarus Deception by Seth Godin. There's going to be more after the intro, as always. And as you may be still here, I'm a little bit fucked, in terms of my voice, in terms of my whole system, a tiny little bit. Still do everything that I want to do and that I also... Please check out the description. Or that description, actually. Because there's a lot of free things that you can get. First of all, there is the link to the podcast, because this is actually a podcast and a YouTube quote-unquote show. On the other hand, you're also going to get 3 things, as I said. For example, the free PDFs of the things that I've highlighted in this episode or in other episodes. If I've highlighted something, then it is going to be in a tiny PDF. You can download it and print it and share it and do whatever with it. And there is everything in this that I've gone through in this episode, which is pretty amazing because some people like to listen, therefore we're having a podcast. Some people like to watch, therefore we're having the YouTube videos. And some other people like to read things. And this is why there's also the free PDF. And there's as well some music. So if you do want to have some background music in this video, then please also check out the 3rd link, or it's actually, I think, the 4th link, but 3rd section, something like that. And there's also just different tracks to choose from. And they're all, I think, an hour long. So you should be fine. Everything should be fine. Should be good to go. And yeah, enjoy the episode and I'm going to see you. Quite have to do, like school stuff, working out and now recording, obviously. But yeah, But yeah, it is what it is. And let's actually head right into it. And let's actually just talk about it right ahead. This time I've actually pre-highlighted everything that I want to talk about and everything that I thought was quite interesting. And I do hope that I still remember all the things that I had to think about while going through it. So yeah, I really hope. We have stopped there with the 24-foot high diving board. And I'm going to start reading there. The 24-foot high diving board, after that first jump, the deflowered leapers always do the same thing. They get out of the water, run to the steps, climb right back up and do it again. Safety zone adjusted, comfort zone aligned for now. And the opportunity is to make it a habit. Yes, and it like in the first place or initially I didn't really get it, what he was referring to and what he was talking about there. But then everything was quite clear. The thing is, these people that are jumping off of 24-foot high dive boards, or just from a 20-foot or 24-foot high or height place, or whatever, you know what I mean. They jump down, they fall into the water. I assume it is water. It could also be something else, but I assume it is water. And then they just climb up again. And they're doing it over and over and over again. There's not like a lot of just thinking, and there's seemingly also a lot of fear, I would say. I mean, like initially there just has to be some fear, I guess, but after you've done it, we really get comfortable and we really indeed adjust our comfort zone, which, by the way, can also be something that's quite dangerous. And I've also seen it, especially with certain things like this, me jumping off of certain things and me just doing certain things and then getting really comfortable with it. And maybe comfortable in a way that I'm not gonna then be too conscious about, not really conscious about consequences, but being a little bit like, well, it's anyway gonna be fine. Whatever I'm doing is gonna be fine. But then I tend to overdo it a little bit, which is turning out to not be a good thing, because I mean, like, you can still hit the ground in maybe this case, which is then not going to be that good, of course, but so just keeping an eye on this, I think, is very, very important and very necessary as well. But once we do something, and after the first time we did something, we really indeed expand our comfort zone. And I would say that this is actually one of the best quite examples for that, on how we can do that or how we are already doing that. The next point. Artists can't afford to be fragile. And fragile in this case, I think, weak, I would say, is just the best word to use there. Since, fragile means quite a lot of things. Weak in terms of robust. But I think it is more or less like weak in terms of as an artist, it's not going to be that easy. And I think it is also something that a lot of people have seen, and a lot of people see, and a lot of people also talk about, that if you're an artist, it is not quite of an easy thing, you know, even though like we all can be artists. And this is something that I think I've talked about in the last episode. But being an artist doesn't necessarily mean just to have a paintbrush and to do some design work and whatnot. But it can also be an artist when you're just working with people. You can also then be an artist. Yeah, you know, I think it really just depends on how you think about the work that you're doing, because artists do really think about the work in a different way than a worker does. You know, a worker wants to basically finish the work as fast as possible, whereas the artist, I guess, is just putting a certain amount of love and a certain amount of willpower and also energy into this specific thing, into this specific task, that it is hopefully also going to be as good as it can be. And there's also something else that Seth Godin is sometimes referring to, which is when an artist finds something new, then he or she is going to put it out as quickly as this person possibly can. It's not going to be like, well, I just found a new recipe, I found a new thing. And by the way, a cook could also be, or can also be, an artist. So if you find a new recipe and you can share it via your blog or via something else, then I think that you're probably not going to be like, well, I'm going to do it tomorrow. But you're rather going to do it right now. And it is also something that I've seen with some postings that I had, you know. On some days I'm just going to design something and multiple things, even more than I actually have to do, just because I'm interested in whether something works out or not, or I just have an idea, or I had an idea and whatnot. And then sometimes I do something, and sometimes I make something that I think is really, really good. And just because I want to see how it is working, or if it is working, I'm just then going to post it the next day, or as soon as I can, maybe even on this particular day as well, if I'm still having just the room for that, basically. But, which is something that's quite interesting, you know, that artists, if they are making something and they're really proud of that they're not going to be like, well, I'm going to do this just in a year. They're not going to say that, you know. If they're finding something amazing, they're probably going to put it out right ahead. So yeah. It wasn't unusual for writers like Trollope and Dickens to write 40 or more books over a career, while keeping a day job. You sat down and you wrote, and then you were done. Starting at the 1950s, though, when writing became godlike, when creating the great American novel had a lot of kamiwaza associated with it, the drinking started, and so did the blocking. It was never easier to talk about making art than it was to actually do it. It was easier to talk about making art than it was to actually do it, and I think it is still the case. Like, talking about building a good physique is also way, way fucking easier than actually building it. Unfortunately, to some degree, because, it is basically a great way to just talk yourself out of the whole thing and then just not doing it, which is not good. Really not good. And I do right now want to share something, and I think it is something that's pretty interesting. The whole day, and I'm gonna do it like this, the whole day I wasn't really in that of a good mood. Because as I said, I'm a little bit fucked, and I'm a little bit I don't want to say ill, because I'm not, and also because it actually has something to do with me accepting that, you know, and it is in general something that I do not want to accept, and I'm also not gonna accept. Which means that I'm not gonna say that I'm ill, never ever quite, unless I really am fucked, I really am just not good. Then I'm probably gonna say that. But if I'm just a little bit like, I'm not feeling too good, I'm not gonna say that I'm ill, because I do not want to accept it, or I do not want to let myself hear that I think that I am ill, you know, because I believe that if I'm like, okay, no, I'm not ill, I'm just not feeling as good as I quote unquote normally do, then I'm gonna maybe act in a different way, or my body is also maybe gonna respond to the whole situation in a way different way. But, well, actually coming back to the original point, till I started the episode, I was really not feeling that good. And now I start feeling really good, and also really open, really talky, you know. The whole day long, I haven't really been talking a lot, also not to my people, which is, you know, not necessarily something nice, really not. But I kind of live up right now, which sometimes is even kind of the vice versa thing. You know, sometimes when I'm recording, then I just tend to be like sluggish and sluggish and whatever, because maybe it is about what I'm talking, You know, maybe it is in this case also about what I'm talking about. But I'm not having too much to talk about left, so I just gotta have to be a little bit slower, I'd say. But yeah, I do want to look up Kamiwaza, because it is definitely one of the terms that Seth Godin sometimes is using. And if you look it up then you're gonna find a video game, but it is probably not what he's referring to. Oh yeah, that's super. No? Kami, and everything is a little slow today, I feel like. I have a feeling that it is a tiny, but I don't know why it is slow. I'm not having too much open, to be honest, as well. So I think the next episode is going to be more of a reaction thing, you know, that I'm going to watch a video, even though this is certainly something that I haven't done quite often, and I'm certainly also not going to do it quite often. Sometimes I actually fear that I'm then going to get fucked in terms of the whole copyright thing. But it seems to be the case that there is some things that you can do by just showing like portions of it and whatnot, but Kamiwaza, I do just still wonder why it is so slow today. Because it really is incredibly slow. Kamiwaza, learn Japanese. The definition of Kamiwaza. Divine work, miracle, superhuman feat, art, technique, or skill worthy of the gods, especially in sports, and Shinto ritual. Okay, does this make sense in the context of that? American novel had a lot of Kamiwaza associated with it. Something godlike? Technique or skill worthy of the gods. Yeah, okay, this he already said it became godlike when creating the great... Okay, yeah. Is it godlike, the American novel? Well, I don't know. We are drawn to connect with people doing art. They are us at our best. And as I'm thinking about it, I think it is definitely the case, you know, that an artist or being an artist is definitely kind of one of the best things we can be, because it just shows and illustrates that we, first of all, care about the thing that we're doing, about our work that we are doing, and that we are maybe also proud of it, so that there's also our name on this particular work, whether it is a painting, whether it is something written, whether it is like a good cake on it. Because if we are not, then you're probably not going to do that. And if you're just really unproud of the work you're doing, then it's probably also not going to be something that you're going to talk about and also like to talk about, especially as well. So yeah, and as I said before, like it is a completely different way to just first of all, work as an act, I'd say, and also to think and talk and whatever about your work if you're proud of it than if you're just doing it as an artist. Quite. And also, so yeah, and it actually leads to also something that's quite of a pity, you know, the case or the fact that a lot of people, and we all are doing a certain kind of work, but a lot of people are not really happy with the work they're doing. In terms of like doing something every single day, they're not necessarily proud. It might also play in it, I don't know, but they don't really like. And I think this is really like a bad thing to do, and we should really not be doing this. Even though, like, there's two ways you can do something about it, I guess. You know, first of all, there is some things that we just naturally like to do. And doing something related to that, I think, could make sense. Not necessarily always, just also because if it is something that you really like and you think you really like, but if you're doing it just all the fucking time, then it could also lead you to thinking like, well, it is actually not that of a cool thing. You know, for example, me, I actually try to restrict myself from playing games, you know, certain, I don't know, browser games and stuff like that, because I don't think that it is something productive. On the other hand, of course, it is like, maybe it could give me some off time, you know, from a kind of wellness and feeling good perspective on. But if you think like, well, I just also want to play or also want to be such a streamer or a YouTuber that's only playing games, and sort of gaming YouTuber, if you want to refer to such a person like this, or I do want to be just a professional esports athlete, it might seem cool, yeah, but I don't really know if it is something that we all, even though we think about it as something cool, also would like it if we would actually be doing it, quite, you know, because I mean, like, you're playing games all the fucking time and you kind of have to, you know, it is then more like work than fun, and maybe the association with it is going to shift from, okay, it is something that gets me relaxed and on a really hard day, or at the end of a really hard day, I'm going to play a game of 2K or whatnot, 2K16, 17, 20. Is it actually 21 or 19? I don't actually know. I really am. Like, this is definitely something that's pretty interesting. Like, nobody quite in Europe is playing any fucking basketball games or whatnot, or Madden or something. There's just the majority of it is possibly FIFA, I'd say, like, and Call of Duty, of course. But relating to sports games, it's probably gonna be FIFA. Maybe some golf, but still, like, not that much actually. But yeah, I don't know if playing games all day long is such a cool thing. I think I wouldn't like it unless I believe it is something productive, quite. But I don't know. Like, yeah. It takes confidence and guts to initially create tension. And I'm seeing tension in terms of what Seth Godin is doing when he's talking about something, and also when he's writing about something. Then me not understanding everything at first glance, basically, or just at first, after my first read, this is for me tension. I don't know if this is actually the tension that he's often referring to, but I kind of feel that it might be, because it makes me, when I'm reading something that he has written, when I'm reading something that he wrote, and also when I'm listening to the podcast, I not always understand what he's referring to and what he's talking about. And I think this is a way of his tension. I don't know if this is something that you do on purpose and or intentionally do, because I don't know if this is smart. I don't know if this is something that makes sense actually for the end user. But it is certainly a way to make people want more. In terms of like, okay, if I just don't understand this, maybe the next article might be explaining this a little bit more, or it is just a way of like, it is something difficult. But there is some people that seem to understand it, since, he has a following. Maybe this is also this kind of thinking there. Also being like a smart dude, because I'm understanding what he's referring to and I'm understanding what he's talking about by maybe being in the circle and being just quote unquote around him. Just, of course, not directly, but yeah. In a connection economy, the fearful are disconnected. They are the ones who are punished not by sinking but by being isolated. Yeah, quite. And I mean, if you think about it, if it is indeed the connection economy, then being isolated is not really a good thing. And by the way, just speaking about isolation, the internet and our possibilities to communicate with other people through the internet and because of the internet is, I think, one of the best contributions we're having at this point in time. And it is, I think, also something that we really can be proud of, first of all, and second of all, also just happy about. That we're having it, because, I mean, if this exact situation, and it has been the case, like, let's talk about the Black Plague, then, I don't know, like, just staying at home would have been much, much more difficult, I would say. And I think, of course, like, people also didn't do it, and I can understand that. I really can, because, I don't know, sitting at home all day fucking long is not something that I can do. But because we're having a lot of entertainment and because we can do some work with all the gadgets, I would say, and the internet that we're having, it becomes easier and also doable. And maybe even like a way to just also do it in the future. Not necessarily if something like this happens once again, but I mean, like, I'm just at this point in time doing the whole e-learning thing, and I'd say that it is working relatively fine. Of course, I don't have my people around, which is something that's incredibly important for me as a person. For some people, it might be like, well, I don't really give a fuck if I'm in a classroom or if I'm sitting at home. Maybe there's also going to be some VR implementations where I'm basically sitting at home, but I am in a classroom, virtually. I don't know if this makes sense, or if this is just going to be something that's quite unnecessary in the end, but we could have the possibility in the near future. And this is also something that I've been talking about to other people, like, if you're having one good teacher, and if this one good teacher makes one video explaining this particular thing, that's quite enough. And if there are any questions, you can do this just separately, of course. But explaining it per se and explaining it as such is, I think, just way more efficient if you just record a video and play it every single other year for every single class. And as I said, if there are questions, then you can answer them. But I don't know if it makes sense to, of course, you also should be doing like this video. It should not be 10 years old, I'm sorry. This, of course, wouldn't also make too much sense, since things are evolving, people are evolving, the ways technology is working are evolving and whatnot, like various different things. But I think it is way more efficient, and it makes sense to do so. Well, yeah, the last one. If you're really, or is it actually, yes, it is the last one. If you rely on external motivation to be your best self, then you will have ceded responsibility and authority to someone else. You will be judged by how well your boss does at motivating you, not based on who you are. And this is something that David Goggins, former Navy SEALs and former like a lot of things, also was talking about really quite often. And it is maybe I can say it is a go-to thing and go-to theme and topic that he talks about and has an opinion on, I'd say. But he says that he's not listening to any music most often when he's working out, because if you have to rely on music to just be motivated to work out, then it's not going to be a good thing compared to, or rather than just relying on yourself and relying on your thoughts and whatever the fuck you're talking and thinking about as motivation, quite, so that you can basically just make yourself motivated, basically, and not having to rely on external sources like music or podcasts or whatever, and which you could also be attributing to or just using for meditation. Because for example, I'm always meditating with a podcast episode by Seth Godin most often. I've also tried it like in the recent days with something from Tim Ferriss, and yesterday I actually also did it with quite nothing. Yesterday I actually fell asleep, which really then pissed me off quite, because I do want to have my meditation, just also because the past days, or not yesterday, but today's Wednesday, like on Monday, I've had and also on Sunday, which is pretty interesting, I've had like really great experience with meditation, like really just having an intense feeling in my body, which has been something that's quite amazing for me, at least, but yeah, I think, I've forgotten about something, I've forgotten about like the question of today, but I know a question of today. I tend to forget about it, which is not a good thing. Quite. But I have to wait till it is working, until this thing can work. So, the question of today, what is the question of today? The question of today is, on what are you relying? What is something that you're relying on to just make you feel motivated, to make you feel good, to make you do whatever? It could actually also be drugs, as I'm just thinking about it. But what are you relying on for certain things? This is the question of the day. And it's also going to be the last question, because we're going to end the episode there. I've actually enjoyed the episode quite a lot. I try to make the other episode, the next one, that I'm recording something else, because I have to just do something else. I feel like I'm just always doing the exact same thing. It's not necessarily just only something bad for me, but I think it is also like, okay, you can't expect like new things to happen if you're always doing the old thing, basically. As a piece of the result, or as a path to the result, basically. Well, yeah. I wish you the best health, happiness, and also success, and also hope that you're going to remind yourself on how you're going to be remembered, which basically means your legacy, and basically means just being a nice person and then being remembered as a nice person. And yeah, with that being said, the 3 other questions that I'm having for you are: why are you here? What are you trying to change? And what is bothering you the most? These 3 questions are hopefully going to show you your purpose and maybe even a business idea. Well, yeah. Thank you very much. I really, really, truly appreciate that. And I'm hopefully going to see you the next time. So, bye-bye.